International Convention of Company Secretaries.
After a power-packed opening with the SEBI chairperson herself and an enriching deliberation by the SEBI executive director and distinguished speakers from the industry, the tone for the three-day insightful journey has already been set.
Before we start, we would request you all once again to put your mobile phones either on flight mode or switch off the mobiles for smoother learning experience.
Our first session today is on IFSCA, Making India a Global Financial Hub. Established in the year 2020, International Financial Services Centers Authority, that is IFSCA, is a new unified regulator with holistic vision that facilitates commercial dealings within the IFSC and offers a top-notch regulatory environment.
With the main objective of developing a robust global network, the IFSCA has been set up to focus on the needs of Indian economy while functioning as an international financial platform for the entire region and world economy.
To take us through the intricacies of IFSCA, we have with us CS Pradeep Ramakrishnan, Executive Director, Capital Market IFSCA.
Shri Vijay Krishnamurthy, Interim Chief Executive Officer, India International Exchange IFSC Limited, India INX.
Shri Sandeep Shah, Head IFSC Department, Gift City, Gandhinagar.
CS Rajesh Tarpara, Council Member, the ICSI.
CS Dwarkanath Chenur, Council Member, the ICSI. And I request you all to please join the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for all our esteemed panelists.
I now request our President, CS B. Narasimhan, to please come on the dais and greet our guest, CS Pradeep Ramakrishnan, Executive Director, Capital Market, IFSCA, and Chair of the session with the ICSI planter.
I now request our session coordinator, CS Dwarkanath Chenur, to please greet Shri Vijay Krishnamurthy, Interim Chief Executive Officer, India International Exchange, IFSC Limited, India INX, with the ICSI planter.
I now request CS Rajesh Tarpara, Council Member, ICSI and Session Coordinator, to greet Shri Sandeep Shah, Head IFSC Department, Gift City, Gandhinagar, with the ICSI planter.
CS Dwarkanath Chenur, our session coordinator, will now introduce our guests and take the session forward.
Namaste. A very good morning to the esteemed chair and panelists of the session, delegates present here and those connecting virtually, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome you all to the second technical session of the 52nd National Convention of Company Secretaries. The theme of the session is IFSCA, Making India a Global Financial Hub. The International Financial Services Centers Authority is a unified regulator to develop and regulate financial institutions, financial products, and financial services in the International Financial Services Centers in India, and connect investors, corporates, corporations, and financial institutions across the world, thereby propelling global economic integration and development through international business partnerships. Since its establishment, the IFSCA has aimed to ensure that India's Made in IFSC GIFT IFSC office offers world-class financial services in banking, capital market, investments, insurance, asset management, fintech, bullion exchange, aircraft leasing, ship leasing, and more. IFSCA has ensured protection of investors' interest and financial stability while supporting financial innovations and ensuring that the regulatory environment is fully FATF compliant. The GIFT IFSC presents a strategic proposition for international investors to gain exposure to the Indian market, along with allowing Indian entities to tap global opportunities. It has already witnessed substantial growth across spectrum of financial services in the last 5 years. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the esteemed speakers for the second technical session. Session Chair, C.S. Pradeep Ramakrishnan, joined IFSCA as Executive Director, Capital Markets in February 2024. Prior to this, he was working as General Manager at SEBI. He has also worked with Madras Fertilizers Limited, Chennai, of course, during 1997-1998, and as a Company Secretary of Kothari Petrochemicals Limited, Chennai, till 2002, after he joined SEBI. Second panelist, Sri Vijay Krishnamurthy, is currently designated as Interim Chief Executive Officer of India International Exchange Limited. He has a rich and varied experience of over 20 years in investment, research, and product across asset classes, with an expertise in fixed income markets. The one more panelist, Sri Sandeep Shah, is head of IFSC Department of Gift City, has over 13 years of professional experience in project management, policy matters, international financial services regulations, and securities market. He has been involved from beginning of the IFSC at Gift City and has been leading various initiatives with IFSC Authority, Ministry of Finance, RBI, SEBI, and IRDAI to develop and promote IFSC globally. This session will explore the government's vision of making India a global financial hub, offering internationally aligned regulatory regime, trusted regulations, competitive tax structures, and ease of doing business and multifold opportunities available for company secretaries in GIFT IFSC. Now, I would request Session Chair, Shri C.S. Pradeep Ramakrishnan, to give his introductory remarks. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. When someone talks, associates me with the 90s, I feel a little more ancient. It's been around for quite some time, and it actually feels that, oh my God, I've been around for quite some time, on this. So this is a very interesting session. The way we have sort of structured it is that each of us will probably give a small insight into what we are doing and what is maybe set the tone, and probably we'll discuss a lot more when we are on the panel. And for once, I'm happy because I'm getting to ask the questions and I'm not going to give the answers. So I joined IFSCA in 2024. So it looked a very pretty exciting opportunity to me. But, and I was just, at that point in time was when I personally also started getting into what exactly was this association, because I remember when I was in SEBI, we did a few amendments also in the laws when pertaining to IFSCA. That was when SEBI was the regulator for IFSCA. And subsequently, we had an independent regulator, that is IFSCA itself, which was sort of established. Now, I just want to go back in history. Yeah, please. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, sorry. So I just want to go back in history and look at two important events which we consider as very significant. One, of course, is our independence, right, in 1947. And owing to certain policies that have been followed, of course, the founding fathers tried to, bring a set of socialism-based principles, some sort of mixed economy. Of course, there has been a lot of foundation that has been laid, which we are bearing the fruits of. But as far as the economy is concerned, unfortunately, the socialist model of economy led to a position where India actually had to ship gold to the IMF to secure loan. So at that point in time, probably was what I call the second most important, significant event as far as India is concerned, and that is when we decided to liberalize, right? So the liberalization actually led to a plethora of opportunities, it led to opening up of the economy. It led to regulators like SEBI coming in because we had to adopt the best practices. And this has yielded results. Like when you go out on the road, you can find how prosperous India is. We are being, we are number 5 in the world as far as the economy is concerned, GDP economy-based economy is concerned, and we are galloping very fast towards being number 3. And this has been possible only because of the fact that of what liberalization led us to. So, what was the next phase? Now that we have liberalized, we have won the benefits of liberalization, what is the next phase? Now, we all know that we don't essentially want a dollarization of our Indian economy, but there also needs to be earning of considerable foreign exchange. And also the fact that why don't we create a center? Probably there are certain things which we may not be able to experiment in India as a country because of our capital account convertibility and other principles. But why can't we sort of try to create a small sandbox? Now, essentially, the IFSC was the sandbox. And if you look at why it was sort of modeled, it was modeled on the base on cities like city-states rather like Hong Kong and Singapore, where you consider them as international financial jurisdictions, right? To your mind, if I ask you a question of what is an international financial jurisdiction, you will probably look at and give me answers as to Hong Kong or Singapore or London. And if I ask you why these answers came to your mind, then you will obviously give me the answer as to, because they enable international finance, right? They're a melting pot of intermediaries and financial intermediaries as well as finance companies and banks alike. So that was the idea with which this was conceived, right? The IFSC was conceived. In fact, there was it was conceived as early as 2007 when Mr. Percy Mistry drafted a report on Mumbai being an international finance center. Now, with taking 2 hours to get out of BKC, it's good that it didn't happen in Bombay. And there was a thought process. So then, in 2012, it was thought fit that by the Gujarat government that why don't we sort of take this, bite this bullet. So that was the starting point from which this whole IFSC experiment started. I think over a period of the last 4 or 5 years, particularly after the IFSCA has come into being an independent regulator, for which we're going to talk about later, a lot of things have started happening. We have got multiple verticals. Now it's a single vertical for this, it's a single regulator for multiple verticals in this particular jurisdiction, which is the IFSC. Now, there is generally a question that is asked as to whether there can be more IFSCs. The answer is yes, there can be more IFSCs. And that is why in the expansion of IFSCA itself is that we are the regulator for international finance centers. And and we have verticals on banking, capital markets, aircraft leasing, interesting things like even foreign universities. So the idea is to develop this as a hub where you will be able to also get value-added services. So essentially, we don't want people to sort of go out of this IFSC for anything. So that is the idea behind which we have sort of created it. And that is also exemplified, in case I can give an example. Very recently, we had the first international global rating-based credit rating agency which has set up shop just a month back. So that has also led to a lot of others also taking off, wanting to ply their wares here. So we will be, what are the things that we are sort of looking at? One, the new thing which is exciting, I'm sure as company secretaries, which you will also be excited about, is the direct listing thing, because in July 2023, the Honorable Finance Minister said that we will be permitting direct listing of equity shares of Indian companies on the IFSC. And that is one thing which is pretty exciting. So we have brought in rules and regulations very recently, and we have also created a web page where we have explained the salient features of these regulations, right? And I'm sure many of your companies, particularly the ones with subsidiaries and associate companies, they will be really wanting to sort of take advantage of the situation. The reason why I'm saying that is that the bond market on the IFSC is actually pretty vibrant. We have got almost 170 issues of bonds that have taken place, and almost $60 billion have been raised. Very interestingly, IFSC is also a hub for sustainable finance, because sustainable finance is the buzzword of India. Actually, there are estimates which say that India needs almost $10 trillion to achieve its climate goals, right? And IFSC can actually be a very important center which can channelize those funds. And already we have got almost $15 billion which have been raised from this place. Interestingly, because of the fact that we have adopted a lot of international practices, and we also said that you can choose the international frameworks which are followed by investors. So which sort of creates a sort of synergy between the investor and the investee, which has led to a lot of money also flowing in through that. The biggest success as far as the IFSC, the vertical which has seen the most success, has been the funds vertical. Almost 150 funds have come with almost a promised corpus of almost 40 billion US dollars. With a lot of funds, almost we get almost 7 to 8 funds get registered a month. And there was also a study which was recently made which said that almost 55% of the new funds which are planning to launch, particularly CAT 3, CAT 1 and CAT 2, they are planning to do it in the IFSC, which is a heartening thing for us. One thing which you would really want to take off is the retail investment there. Investment particularly through bullion depository receipts and also through mutual funds. The next few months are also we are going to see a launch of a few mutual funds, hopefully. And we are also expecting retail investors also to take advantage of this place, because we are reaching out to the diaspora internationally, and they are pretty excited about this place. See, I joined, as I told you, I joined IFSCA in February 2024. I can see a palpable change whenever I have gone for seminars, whenever I have gone to international meetings. I don't need to introduce the GIFT City anymore. People have already heard about it, and many people are also wanting to take advantage of it. And hopefully, I'm sure many of you as professionals, and I'm going to throw light on it when we are going to do the panel discussions, because that is also one of the things which I have been asked to tell the company secretaries here, that you can come there and take advantage of that place. So we'll cover that also when we are having the panel discussion. Also, for want of time, so I'm taking leave, so I'll request my next panelist. And one other thing also which I would like to say is that Vijay actually has taken over as CEO of India INX. It's not interim anymore, so that is one thing also which I wanted to say here. And after him, Sandeep will take charge. But we are going to have, hopefully, a very interesting panel discussion. And I really want it to be very interactive. Hopefully, I'm sure you will also be able to ask a lot of questions. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's really a honor and a pleasure to be here amongst all of you all. It's a first for me in such a forum. So thank you so much for having me around. And thank you, Pradeep sir, for breaking the news here. Thank you so much. It's better. Thank you. So it's been about 4.5 months that from BSc I was deputed as the interim CEO of India INX at Gift City. So when I was told to do that, there were so many questions that was running around my head as to what exactly Gift City is. Because till that point of time, I had only read it in newspapers, but actually really didn't know what exactly is happening in that place. And, what do I expect there? So there were some of the previous colleagues who had gone there, so a little bit of chat and didn't get too much of an impression that, okay, it's a very thriving jurisdiction. So having some basic impression really came here. But having spent about 4.5 months here, I can definitely and with great assurance say that this is a place that is going to be the next thing in the international finance. And with the theme of this seminar, which is India at 2047, this is going to be the place, or it is going to be the most pivotal place which is going to really drive India to the kind of vision that is being shared by our Honorable Prime Minister. So this is going to be a very, very important place for all of us to look at and be a part of. It's a very thriving and growing place. Pradeep ji really pointed out about the various activities and things which is happening. Now, why do I say that, it looks very positive, it's very thriving, and, it's getting very vibrant. Firstly, to put forth, we have two of the, esteemed people one from the GIFT and one from IFSCA. So I would like to say that in the last 4.5 months, the kind of, proactiveness that IFSCA as well as, GIFT has really shown is tremendous. You go to them with any kind of an suggestion or ask them for some kind of an support, they're more than willing to come forth, discuss and see how it gets implemented. So that is very encouraging for all of us because, as a growing market, as a growing jurisdiction, as a growing place, it's very important that, not only the larger policies, but also smaller things which are typically the operational roadblocks, are taken care of. And my experience has been that, in this place, we have really a very, very positive and a proactive regulator who thinks about the development of the market, and they're really taking steps towards that. So that's very, very encouraging, and it's just going to be about time that we will see this place really explored because as mentioned, direct listing regulations came out by IFSCA in August, on August 29th, if my date is correct, on August 29th. Post which, within week, 10 days, when we also made it, viral through our channels, I think so we have started getting a lot more queries, not only from the merchant banking fraternity, but also from a lot of the companies who are, who could be, companies of Indian companies but registered abroad. So we are getting a lot of queries from there, given that, the Indian investors can invest in those foreign entities under the LRS scheme. So that's another, important point which is there, which is also, attracting them, plus a lot of, other provisions which has been got, which is very, in the sense, beneficial from a company perspective. At India INX, we are another exchange, an international exchange, a subsidiary of BSE. And as any exchange, we also have products which an exchange has, which is derivatives and equity derivatives. We have commodities, we have currency derivatives, and we have thriving debt listing. And would be happy to say that we closely have nearly 100% market share on debt listing. And we are seeing it's not only unique issuers which are coming, but there are repeat issuers who are really coming to that jurisdiction and raising bonds. So that's very encouraging, because otherwise what happens is, okay, it's, there is a push either from the government or from some, okay, I'll come one time and raise the bond and go back. But what we are seeing is, and what is encouraging is that there are, at least about 40-45% of repeat issuers who are coming there to raise funds. And as Pradeep ji actually mentioned, that sustainable or green bonds or sustainable linked bonds are also really picking up in that jurisdiction. And so, we are really pioneering that, right from being the first exchange that was established there. We have really pioneered on the listing space, and also getting the expertise from our parent there. Also, very interestingly, just wanted to leave this thought behind, is at India INX we also have this unique model of global access, which allows the Indian residents to really invest in markets abroad to the extent of the LRS, which is provided by the RBI, to the extent of $250,000. So what this does is it helps the Indian investors or the Indian resident investors to diversify their portfolio, and this can be done through an exchange which is an regulated MII. So that's also one of the very important points, because today, yes, you can invest from India, but then some of these international brokers who are not registered. So when you flow through an ecosystem which is through the GIFT, through the exchanges at GIFT, that gives a lot of credibility and the trust to the Indian investor. That's another aspect at India INX which we are looking at, and I look forward to the conference and maybe all the other discussions that we would want to have and throw a light on. I guess Pradeep ji has prepared a set of questions, so we'll be taking you all through that. Thank you so much. I would like now Sandeep ji to really come and give a perspective on what they are doing with GIFT. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I think before I kind of start my address and the detailed discussion that we will have, let me get the sense of who all are familiar with the ecosystem that we are going to discuss, and that's where we can actually go into the depth. So let me ask a couple of questions to the audience here. Before entering this room, how many of you had heard of GIFT City? Oh, it's quite encouraging. The second question, how many of you have actually visited GIFT City? That is also a big number. Good to see that. So probably, I think today's session is very important, because while as a company secretary professional, you have done quite kind of great work in terms of enabling the companies to ensure that they are complying with the right kind of regulations, compliances within the Indian regulations. But today we are going to discuss in terms of how, as CS professional or a practitioner, you can think of going to the global, or if you are working as a CS professional in any of the companies, how you can become part of the ecosystem that we are going to kind of discuss in detail. So probably let me give you a kind of a background in terms of where we all are coming from and how the entire journey started. So the concept of GIFT City basically started way back in 2015, when Government of India notified that particular zone as the International Financial Services Center. Now, I'm sure all of you know that because we are not fully capital account convertible country, there are certain restrictions under the Foreign Exchange Management FEMA Act in terms of dealing in foreign currency, and because of which it has been kind of decided to carve out one of the locations in the country and provide full flexibility in terms of dealing in foreign currency. And that's where many of our financial institutions, either banking or insurance or capital markets, they wanted to serve India's requirement for the foreign currency business, but they were not able to do it because of the restrictions which were there, from the Foreign Exchange Management Act perspective. And that's where the IFSCA has been kind of designed in such a way that if Indian corporate is looking for a foreign currency loan, the bank set up in GIFT City can actually offer that foreign currency loan. If NRI or say as an individual traveling to overseas, if you want to buy a dollar denominated insurance policy, insurance company in GIFT City can offer. And if Indian corporate wants to raise capital or debt in foreign currency, that is possible through the exchange platform which has been established. So I think there were hundreds of such services and activities which were kind of required by the Indian either corporates or the individual kind of as an investors, where the requirement was in foreign currency term. And that's where the idea of creating the IFSC came into a picture, and we are kind of at a stage where many of these services are actually happening on ground. But when we were establishing this IFSC as a zone, we realized that there are 4 pillars which are very important to create vibrant and successful financial center. And this we did basically based on the study of other global financial center, because if India has not developed this financial center, these services would have been kind of, these would have been provided by the financial centers like Singapore, Dubai or Hong Kong. And technically those, centers would have actually had become the gateway for the country for some or other reasons. I think the time is right where if the US or European investors looking to kind of invest in India, there is no reason for them to actually locate their business into other financial centers. India has now created their own vibrant financial center where many of these activities and services can be housed at one location. I was mentioning about 4 pillars basically in terms of what will make this financial center successful. And the first pillar basically that we realized that it is important to provide right kind of regulatory framework or regulatory infrastructure for the development of the financial center. And when I say regulatory infrastructure, it doesn't mean about issuing the regulations or the circulars or the notifications. I am talking about giving kind of a right kind of regulatory freedom to create the innovations. And that's what the kind of regulations that the regulator is now coming up. Even if say a stock exchange say wants to list a new product which has never been thought of, the regulatory framework today provides them kind of a freedom where such innovations can happen. There is an alternative investment fund framework today under the IFSC. Now typically and traditionally the funds will raise money from global investors and then invest back in India. But say if you have a very innovative strategy or innovative structure which is generally not defined in a traditional regulations, today the regulatory freedom actually provides where I can think of a very unique structure and it can be enabled through the IFSC zone. So what was very much important that regulations are kind of giving freedom to innovations. And second, it should be flexible enough to meet the dynamics of the market, because many a time what happens that by the time we come out with the regulations, the market's dynamics have changed. And that's where it's important to kind of update and upgrade the regulations on regular basis, and that's what the current regulatory ecosystem is also doing, where there is a need of a continuous improvement in the regulations so that we are at par with what is happening in the global standards or the global markets. And that's where, and the financial markets, I'm sure all of you will agree with me that it's a one world market. What is happening in India is already happening somewhere in other locations or other parts of the world. And that's where it's important that we are also aligned with the global trends, because today the exchange people can confirm, but the volumes on the stock exchanges is today largely driven by the algorithmic or high frequency trading firms. It is no longer a traditional brokerage houses which are driving the market, right? So the entire market scenario has changed, where instead of a traditional trading, the tradings are happening under a high frequency trading more, where algorithm trading is driving the liquidity of the market. And that's where it's important that our regulations are aligned to ensure that such players can become part of the ecosystem. The second pillar of the entire ecosystem that we realized when we were actually looking at the other markets is the competitive tax regime. And again, when I say competitive tax regime, it doesn't mean that we need to provide tax exemptions or the tax incentives. But what it means when we interact with the global investors, what they look for is certainty in the tax regime. Because they are very much ready to pay the tax. Even if you say there is a 10%, 15% tax, they are okay to pay. But what they are saying is, don't surprise us basically in terms of, after 5 or 7 years. So tax certainty is going to play a very important role when we are creating this financial center, and even after 10 years, they should be confident enough to say that this is going to be my tax liability for the next 10 years or 15 years. And that's what we are trying to establish from the GIFT City perspective, where whatever tax regime which is coming up, and thanks to Government of India, Department of Revenue, I think in the last 7-8 years, the progress has been quite significant, where there has not been any incident or case where, there is adverse tax kind of implication to the investors. Whether it is capital gain tax, withholding tax, or the corporate tax, it has been very well defined under the Income Tax Act today, and probably that has been the important factor for us in terms of defining the success of the financial center. The third important pillar that we realized in the entire journey is the alternative dispute resolution, ADR. And Dr. Sahu is here. I think I'm sure he's the brain behind what we are actually creating at GIFT City for the alternative dispute resolution. But apart from regulation, tax, and the business environment, the dispute resolution mechanism will play a very important role for the success of financial center. And that's where I think the work is in progress. I would not say that we have achieved in the ADR space, but I think we are on a right track. The arbitration mechanism is coming up, where the disputes will be resolved basically in a efficient way. So it's going to be cost efficient, as well as it will be timely executed, and based on the global benchmarks, I think the alternate dispute resolution mechanism is also coming up. What we also realize within the alternate dispute resolution is the requirement of dedicated commercial courts. In some of the successful financial centers, while there is the arbitration center, but along with arbitration center, there is also a dedicated commercial court. And probably, if we want to achieve the similar success, I think we will also have to drive towards the same thing, where there is a dedicated mechanism to resolve some of the disputes. And the last pillar basically that we feel for a successful financial center is the right kind of physical and social infrastructure facilities. Probably because what we are trying to develop as a financial center, where we are attracting the large global hedge funds to come, global asset management companies to come and set up, and global banks to come and operate here. And if they are coming as an institutions, they will also need right kind of people to come and operate there. And that's where it's important that we create right kind of physical infrastructure facilities along with the social infrastructure in terms of the high-end schools and the residentials and the other facilities, so that the vibrant financial centers can come up. And that's where, if you look at the GIFT City concept, we are actually kind of a walk-to-work concept. So people don't have to travel from work to kind of home place. That's where there are residentials also part of the ecosystem, where people can actually stay within the 900 acres of city, and they can and the work environment is also part of the same ecosystem. And that's how there has been substantial progress in all the 4 pillars in terms of how the financial center can be developed and it can achieve the success. And thanks to Ministry of Finance and the IFSCA authority in terms of ensuring that the pillars are becoming stronger and stronger as we go along in terms of developing this financial center. Now, all these pillars will require kind of building blocks. And one of the important building block is the service providers like and the professional like yours. And there is a great role that company secretary as a professional can play in the IFSC today. Uh, Whenever we meet the service provider, we have been telling them that I think it's a right time, and also to the institute today, I would like to convey that probably we should encourage the young company secretary professionals to now look at emerging financial services or the emerging activities which are happening in the zone. It can be in the nature of serving to the global clients for their global compliance requirements. And the reason I'm highlighting this point, because 3 months back, I think we enabled a new financial product known as bookkeeping, accounting, and taxation framework, right? Where chartered accountants sitting in India can do the global accounting for the global companies. Now, on the same lines, can we think of global compliance kind of activities where while today you are expert in the compliance management or risk management or corporate governance for Indian companies, but can you also serve to the global requirements? Because India's one of the important strength is the talent that we have. And probably we are well positioned to kind of serve to the global requirements for their compliance, for their risk management, for their AML requirements. And more or less, we are, the thanks to the institute, I think we have created a strong base of corporate governance professionals, and I'm sure GIFT IFSC would be able to provide right kind of platform to serve to the requirements of the global companies, and that's where developing the talent around that area is going to play a very important role. We are going to have a in-depth discussion in terms of what are the opportunities for both practitioners as well as the employees who are looking for a kind of an employment, and I can assure you that there is something for everyone, and that's what we will discuss today. I also take this opportunity to invite all of you to come and visit GIFT City, either individually or as a group. We'll be happy to assist you, host you at GIFT City, and give you a kind of a perspective about how the India's Maiden International Financial Center is coming up. So with this, I'll end my address and we'll look forward to the larger discussion. Thank you very much.
So yes, now it's this. We'll sit there.
Staff of 45 people, and we were deputed our people to GIFT City to look after the stock exchange in the initial stages. Later on, they wanted some local party to do it, so that is how we relinquished that. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, wonderful.
Great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's good. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to, yes, I think this is better. I can see both of you. Yeah. So I'm going to give you some rest. So let me, start with Vijay. And now, when it comes to a stock exchange in the Indian jurisdiction, and working in a stock exchange, in an IFSC, what are your top level differences that you find?
Thank you, sir. So very clearly, I have spent a little more than 5 years at BSc and now 4.5 months at IFSC at the GIFT. So, see, one thing very clearly is there's a clear difference between the domestic market as well as the international market. So, the first and foremost point is they are not competitors, but they are complements to each other. So the domestic market and the international, the exchanges at the domestic side and the exchanges at the international, in the international jurisdiction are complementing each other. They are not competitors to each other. That's, very clearly number one. Number two is, if I would look at the domestic market in terms of the regulatory setup, we have multiple regulators, right? So we have a capital market regulator as SEBI, the banking regulator and banking and NBFC regulator as RBI. We have one for IRDAI for insurance, PFRDA for the pension, right? But when we look at GIFT IFSC, it's a unified regulator in IFSCA, right? So within IFSCA, there are multiple divisions, but that is it's a unified regulatory setup. So one really need not run to multiple regulators to get things done. So it's like, it's one-stop shop for anybody who is really coming there. Very strikingly, what I notice as a very differentiating point is that the domestic market right now is buzzing, is bubbling both in terms of debt, equity, and so there has been an evolution of the entire regulatory landscape which has taken place from being, kind of facilitator, flexibility, accommodative, and then now the regulations are quite stringent. Of course, because with the growing needs of the market, you need to, get into space, all the required, things so that the gaps are reduced, minimized, and the misadvantages or the disadvantage or the mismanagement which is there is reduced. IFSCA, on the other hand, is at a stage where it's evolving. The international exchange jurisdiction is evolving, right? So we are at a very first stage. So when you look at it, although they have branched out of SEBI, and IFSCA has created the new regulations for the MIIs, for the stock exchanges, depositories, so on and so forth. The good part is there is no copy paste which has happened from the domestic side to the international side. So what has really happened is there has been a lot of effort which has been really taken to see what it is that is really required at this point of time as regulations, right? Because on day one, if you're going to build a huge Chinese wall, then what you do is you prevent any kind of activity to really happen. You actually stop or create these roadblocks for people to come and set up a shop there. So right now, there's a phase there wherein, it's a developing phase. It's it's a nurturing phase wherein everybody is really moving, towards getting the ecosystem built. So the best part about the current ecosystem is everybody is working together, right? So the stock exchanges, be it the regulators, be it the depositories, be it anybody for that matter, the clearing corporations. Now all of us are working together as an ecosystem to build that ecosystem. Now that's a very fantastic thing which is happening because everybody is feeding off each other. So it's a very symbiotic relationship which is currently happening at that place. Having said that, we also need to take a lot of leave from the domestic side to see what are those things that can be really got in that in a better way with all the learnings and the experience that we have. So I have been an all along fixed income person, a debt person in majority of my career, and I also had the privilege of working with Pradeep ji when he was looking at that piece at SEBI. So we have worked very closely together. Right now at IFSCA, the debt piece is pretty good, right? So as mentioned, we have more than 60 billion plus issuances which are listed. We have 53 at INX, at least we have 53 unique issuers, and Pradeep ji spoke about sustainability link. So we have 18 unique issuers who are there, and they are also repeat issuers. So to the tune of at least at INX, it's 14 billion of ESG which is raised, and a little more than 59 billion of the normal bonds which are raised with a lot of issuances. Would be very happy to say when we joined in mid-June, and in that quarter we had the highest number of debt issuances which took place, right? We had a number of 22 debt issuances which took place, which is more than what would have happened in the past entire financial year, right? So that's the kind of activities which are started. Of course, they are seasonal because it also depends on a lot on what is the interest rate scenario, what is the economic going to be, what is it the US markets really looks like, what are the rate of interest that I'm going to get. So of course those are the conditions which are there. But what I mean to say is it's a it's a very well oiled, primary market right now. So what do we need to do as a next step, at least on the fixed income side, is to see how we develop a secondary market there, right?
So I'm going to come to you later on that
Sure.
part. So I think that's, I'll sort of come to you on that. So I'm going to go to you, Sandeep, and this is, I think, yeah. So you spoke a bit on the history, and it was pretty interesting, but I would again want you, because you have been someone who has seen it grow, right? Like right from the single building to whatever it is now. So I would want you to sort of throw light on the initial challenges and how you looked at small victories and which of the ones were really challenging, which are the ones sort of pushed you to go ahead. So if you can throw some light.
Sure. No, I think very interesting to kind of, discuss how the journey has been. I think when we got a mandate in 2015 to develop kind of a international financial services center at GIFT City, which was single mandate, single window, developed IFSC. But when we opened that window, there were so many doors inside where we need to work on banking, insurance, capital markets, asset management. And that was kind of, a journey, I would say, where we had to actually work with each and every regulator in the domestic side to give them that kind of a perspective and understanding, saying that the Government of India, Ministry of Finance has now notified IFSC as a zone. And then in the very first meeting, the response was, what is IFSC? So I think the journey started from explaining in terms of what has been the objective and vision. I think what we did initially way back in 2007-8, we kind of appointed one of the global management consultancy firm to carry out benchmarking study in terms of whether do we need such financial center. And the second question was, if we need, what kind of potential that financial center would have. And the outcome of that study was very interesting. It said that India will actually need close to $50 billion of international financial services every year. And that number was quite encouraging to see that India's own requirement itself is so huge that we don't actually need to depend on other businesses or other markets basically to provide that services. And that's where I think the potential was realized very early, saying that if we make it right, we can actually achieve the right kind of successes. And I would say the most part of challenging part of the journey has been to kind of getting all the regulatory pieces and the tax regime pieces, at a right place. Because when we wanted exchange to be established at the IFSC, the first question was, what's going to be the product of the exchange? Because we never thought of a international exchange and international market. But I think based on the experience of the global markets, it was very much clear that if we create right kind of products basically for the Indian corporates, because as you know that our Indian corporates, they go and trade in the international stock exchanges for their hedging requirement. It can be commodity, it can be currency. And that's where the idea of creating such kind of market infrastructure institution was also came up in terms of how should we develop it. And probably I think journey has been very smooth now because the unified regulator, the single mandate is to work on all these areas. There is no need to now approach the different regulators or different departments to develop this kind of ecosystem. So I think the only, the focus now is to create right kind of ecosystem. So probably the challenging part of bringing the right kind of regulations at one place, the taxation regime at one place, has now been resolved basically with the presence of unified regulator.
Okay, thanks. In fact, on IFSCA, I mean, and I'm not saying this because we are there, I think the establishment of a unified regulator actually has made a lot of difference. And I can tell you, Mr. Dr. Sahu is there, he has ensured that there is one regulation in our regulations which says that we have a regulation on how to make regulations, whereby we review it and he's on our performance review committee and he ensures that that review happens regularly, and that is why we are having a lot of new regulations also come through. Now, I'm going to go back to Vijay and I'm just going to take forward our discussion which we were having on the bond markets earlier. And bond markets have been quite successful in the IFSC, particularly with India INX also. No, but one of the things that always is asked as far as bond markets are concerned is something which the regulators around the world also keep grappling about. Even we were doing it when we were also at SEBI, is what about the liquidity, right? So the things which are needed for a vibrant secondary market as far as bonds are concerned, or because that is a thing which we expect, and maybe you can also give your thoughts on that. Do you expect it to rub off on the equity listing also? So what do you think as an exchange you would have plans as to increase the liquidity and vibrancy of the secondary market, and how do you think it's going to rub off on the primary market for equities?
That's a very interesting question.
Just put you in a spot.
Yeah. Just before we came on the panel, I was discussing liquidity with one of the seniors here. See, to me, debt per se is an HTM kind of a product. Right? People typically invest in debt because they typically want to hold it till maturity. Correct? So that is the objective with which typically they try and invest in debt. We always speak about, market liquidity, liquidity needs to be there, debt, you need to have more investors come in. So at least given my experience on the domestic side, I guess we have come a long way there, right? From where we have seen where the the government of India auctions used to happen on paper, where the brokers used to go to the banks and others and fill all those things, get it filled and then submit it, to a regime where it is now more electronically done. The yields and the bidding process is more transparent, known to the people at general. Plus, coming on the corporate bond side, we have the EBP as a platform for the primary market and issuances which are happening on the primary market, on the private placement side, which is more than 95% of the market. So everything is, really transparent. So we have really come a long way in terms of from a very, very opaque market to an extremely transparent market on the domestic side. One of the key asks was, how do you get retail participants participate on the debt side? I guess that has been, in 2020, we launched the request for quote platform in the domestic side, which is the RFQ, as it is popularly called. And that has evolved. So today we also have, in the last couple of years, a lot of these fintech companies, popularly known as the OBPPs or the online bond platform providers. Now what they have done is, I'm not saying that we have really scaled up in volumes, but what that really done is, over the last at least 1 year, there has been a significant amount of retail participation that has happened. Although the quantum of each transaction is lower, but the number of transactions has really gone up, right? Now, taking parallel to, the international jurisdiction, the good part is, out of the 53 issuers, the names of these issuers who have listed there are who's who, are the names which are not only known in the domestic market, but these names are also known globally. So how is it possible that we could get participation from the foreign investors to really come here and do some kind of a transaction? The answer to this question is yes. Okay, because currently what happens is, whatever listing that happens on INX, we provide that ISIN on the Bloomberg platform, and we have seen, not a significant, but at least there have been transactions that have been happening on the Bloomberg platform, right? So now the question is, how do you really translate that to come for all the listed things onto the stock exchanges? So given the experience that we have from the Indian domestic market and a lot of the Indian debt brokers, the big debt houses we've been discussing, are also keen on seeing how they can really participate and make that vibrant. So that's another thing that we are looking for, and hopefully in the next in a short period of time, maybe 10 to 12 months, we should have something going there on the secondary market as well.
So you mean something like your liquidity enhancement schemes or market makers, incentivization, something like that?
We may look at that, but I think so more than that, it would be the transparency and the platform that they would, be getting, because so that there is some kind of a price discovery that really happens. So that is going to be the key. more than the market being on the liquidity enhancements, it's going to be the price
Yeah,
discovery
because-
that is going to be key. And just to answer the second part of the question, how is it going to rub off on the uh, equity side? We know that the Indian government bonds are included in the MSCI and the JP Morgans and the Bloomberg indices. So that has had a very, very positive effect, because now India is really looked at as a place wherein there has to be a certain proportion of investment that really needs to be made. So whatever is the proportion at which the Indian country is the weightage is there. So I think so the MSCI weightage at one point was about 20 plus 20 percent, which of course with in between China really booming, that has come down a little bit. So what this has done is it has put India on the global map in terms of the investments on the debt side. And when that is done slowly, when the country is taken notice about and the India story is really going great, definitely this will have a very, very positive effect on the equity as well, at least from a foreign subsidiary perspective, because as I had initially said, there is no restriction for an Indian resident investor to invest in the equity listings of a foreign company, right? Because through the LRS, they can definitely come. So this is something that I very strongly feel that, over a medium term, this will definitely have a positive rub effect on the equity.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Vijay. So now I'm going to ask you one question. I think you did touch upon something during your address on infrastructure, right? And also on talent. Now, this has been a question which generally is also asked. We read about it in the media a lot of times as to what are we going to do about talent. So maybe with establishment of foreign universities and other things, could you sort of give your perspective on how do you think GIFT City and maybe the IFSCA can sort of tackle this?
I think, as you rightly mentioned, all the activities which have been permitted today, say in the IFSC zone, most of the activities were not happening on Indian shore. And that's where you are actually in need of, specialized talent, basically, who understands a global financial market, who understands anti-money laundering perspective, who understands the global compliances. So I think while the fundamentals of the knowledge will remain the same, but there is always need of upscaling or upgrading the talent in such a way that they can become part of the ecosystem. I think we are working on a short, medium or long-term kind of a strategy to ensure that there is a continuous supply of talent. In a short term, what we have done, we have actually introduced programs or the IFSC related modules within the existing the education modules of the universities. And I was told that Institute of Company Secretary is also coming up with one of the programs where the existing talent which is working in financial sector or in the compliance or a corporate governance domain, they will get kind of an opportunity to upgrade their knowledge and skills so that they are familiar with the regulations which are coming up. On a mid-term, I think what we are also doing is to introducing kind of a specialized certificate program. So one is introducing as a part of their existing MBA program or existing CS program. The second part is also to introduce IFSC as a subject, where dedicated certificate programs or dedicated subjects will be introduced in the various universities, and a couple of them have already done. The larger piece which is coming up and you highlighted is the establishment of foreign university campuses. I think Government of India took a very bold decision to allow 100% campuses of the foreign universities to be established in GIFT City, where the domestic regulations will not be applicable. And 2 Australian universities have already set up their campus, and they are actually offering programs based on the requirements and needs of the IFSC companies or businesses. And that's where the continuous supply of talent will be very much possible through the universities which are setting up their campuses. The third university from UK is also in advanced stage, and they are making an application to set up their campus. So I think considering all 3 approaches, we feel that the talent would be developed. However, we will also encourage the practitioners basically, who are in this room right now, whenever you also take interns as a part of your, the practice, you may also like to dedicate one or two kind of interns to work on only on the IFSC areas. And probably if you create that kind of mechanism, it will also help other employees or the professional working here to pass on that knowledge in terms of what are the opportunities coming up in the IFSC space in terms of the new regulations and businesses. And that's where they will not have to go and find a client basically who wants to set up in IFSC. Probably there will be an opportunity where your existing clients can actually is thinking of some global business which can actually fit into the IFSC regulatory umbrella. So probably so on the job training on the IFSC areas can also be kind of taken up by the practitioners, in the CS profession as well.
Yeah. So that brings me to the last question, but I should also add that it's a good point which Sandeep mentioned. So the IFSC finds its, the ICSI has actually drafted the syllabus in such a way whereby there are two modules on IFSCA and the direct listing, which are already included in the, I think, the intermediate or final. I think, what do they call it now? I think professional course. So when I was studying, it was intermediate and final, so I continue to use the same thing. So it is there in either intermediate or final. So this is to sort of acclimatize people with the new jurisdiction. And as we go ahead, I think hopefully more modules also will be added. We are also working with the ICSI to start some courses. So I think hopefully that should happen soon. In fact, there is one small short course which is starting next week, and I have been told that there has been a lot of interest that has been expressed by the participants. Now, Vijay, I'm going to come to one question, and probably my last question because I'm mindful of time. But this is a question which I'm sure a lot of people from the crowd want to ask, from the audience want to ask. What are the opportunities for company secretaries, at IFSC? And do you have any open positions?
So I'll take the last one first. So definitely, talent is most welcome, right? We'll be happy to see, how we could really have talent come in and nurture them, and at the same time, use their expertise to help us grow as well. We in our initial address spoke about the regulations that came about for direct listing, and I think so. The fraternity here, the audience here, are the key and the most important people who will be really enabling that part, to be a success at IFSC, which is direct listing. So definitely, there's a huge opportunity, for this CS as a community to be there. To really explore, and as Sandeep ji also has given an open invitation, so we also, as part of India INX, will be more than happy to have you all there, and really take you all through the way that what is happening, how fast things are really changing and developing as a landscape. And to me, it is like the earlier the better. So if you're there earlier and catching the growing trend fast, you can, the growth will be really exponential. So the opportunities are plenty. Direct listing is definitely one of those things which is hot right now, and we would look forward to any kind of, contribution that could really come across. At the same time, we would also like to say that if there is any kind of query, suggestions, that really, because, you are the people who are in touch with the, companies who will be listening. So if there is any kind of queries, suggestions, we'll be more than open to all of these things, and be willing to discuss it as well. And also as a community and as exchange, we'll be also happy to, take it together with the regulator to see, if there is anything that can be done to make this, if there are any roadblocks, we want to see how that can be really taken care of. So that's.
Yeah. So, your perspective?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but for the first time, even the service providers like CA firm or a chartered accountant firm can get license from IFSC authority under the ancillary services framework and can provide services to the IFSC based entities or to the global entities looking to set up in the IFSC zone. And the advantage to you basically is you will also enjoy that 10 years of income tax holiday, which is provided in the IFSC. So probably you have never been kind of directly licensed by a financial sector regulator to provide that services. But Gift City IFSC kind of now offers an opportunity for you to set up your firm under the ancillary services framework and provide dollar denominated services sitting in Indian shore to the IFSC companies. That's more from the business perspective. The second, more from employment perspective, thanks to the regulator, I think there is a mandate for each and every entity to appoint compliance officer, right, if they are licensed by the IFSC authority. And today, you will not believe, and he can reconfirm, but there is a kind of a need of compliance officers in most of the companies because there is a defined requirements in terms of who can become compliance officer. And as many of you know that every month total number of entities licensed, I mean the new entities that we are getting is close to the number of 15 to 20 new entities which are setting up, which means the requirement of compliance officers are also similar to what the businesses are coming up. And that's where we see a great opportunity for all the compliance officers or the corporate governance professionals. And also the anti-money laundering is also one of the important requirements where each and every entity needs to comply with the AML rules and regulations. So probably both for business perspective and employment perspective, there is a great opportunity to look at.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll just add a few points also to that because that's something which all of you, and because this being a national convention, see, I'll give you some perspective. For example, there are around 170 odd funds which are there, right? Each of them, like Sandeep ji rightly said, they require a principal officer and a compliance officer. So that itself, and with a few other personnel around, already there is almost 500 jobs are awaiting you, right? And most of the people who are taken are generally company secretaries because of their knowledge of securities law and the company's law, because that will be a natural corollary when it comes to, you mastering the IFSC related laws, because most of them are largely on those lines and which with a global perspective. So that is something which you can always look at. Apart from that, see, there is one thing which is also, which is happening. A lot of consultants are coming through in the Gift City who are trying to bring in business, right? So because now, why do you need a consultant? Because there's not everyone who will be able to sort of, know the rules and regulations. There is someone with an idea, and there is someone who would want to germinate that idea, and that is possible if, and when it comes to the nitty-gritties, when it comes to the technical aspects, that is something which a lawyer or a company secretary can always take forward. So we have been getting a good amount of consultants. There are a few company secretary firms which have already set shop. So we hope that also gives you an inkling as to what are the opportunities that are in store. We will be happy to help you out. We are always available, and we can be in touch. So in case there are things that are needed from our side, we will be certainly happy to pass on. So should we take audience questions, or do we do it on the sidelines, or we don't have time? Yeah, okay. A couple of questions from the audience, and hopefully not to me.
Hi, it's working, right? Hi, sir. How are you? Thank you for the opportunity. As you just said that the ancillary service providers are given the opportunity in Gift City. So I understand that there is a certain amount of security or a bond has to be given over there. So the amount is little huge in that. So as an individual, if I want to be maybe a compliance officer or provider services in the university, is there any way or opportunity for us?
No, so first of all, for setting up ancillary services unit, there is no minimum, say, capital requirement or a net worth requirement. That's the best part of it. However, there is an application fee when you make an application, which is generally the case for any regulated entity, where registration fees and application fees would be applicable, which is, I think, to the tune of some $500, if I am not wrong. Okay. So that would be required to be paid because ultimately you are becoming a regulated entity in the zone, and the regulator is also conscious that the right kind of players are becoming part of the ecosystem. Uh, the third part about the operating cost of it, I think what we have also enabled is the co-working service space, where say even if you want to start with say 2 or 3 people today, you can actually start operating immediately within the co-working service providers. And eventually once you think that your business has grown, you can move to a larger office space. So those flexibilities are kind of
So
available.
basically what I understand is that there is no minimum capital required to have an ancillary service provider.
Correct.
And
Yeah, so what I will do is that since that's a specific question, so we will share with you the requirements
Sure,
which are needed for firms. Maybe I'll share it with the institute, they can pass it on, which will give you a checklist as to what are the things that are needed.
thank you so much.
Thank
sir.
you.
So there is one small further point. Now for Gift City, there is a foreign educations which are allowed, foreign universities allowed in India. Now recently UGC has also issued another regulation wherein pan India it is allowed to have a foreign university. So what are the additional advantage we might get in Gift and not apart from India?
No, so in case of the IFSC, which are established in the IFSC, they can repatriate the proceeds completely. There is no, tax-related issues there. You can have your own curriculum. There won't be any interference as far as the curriculum, etc., are there. So if you see, there are universities which have established their, campuses. Wollongong is there, Deakin is there, and it's almost half the cost of what they charge internationally. So those things are probably a lot more attractive in the gift city.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Shall I ask? Thank you, sir, for such an interesting session. We also got to know new terms, so it was quite knowledgeable. So I want to ask you one question: that whether how we are going to go towards internationalization of INR. Internationalization of INR. I think it must be relevant to you.
No, I'm not able to comprehend the question. Sorry. Did you?
Internationalization of INR, how?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So I think it's a very large policy kind of a discussion which has been going on for many years. I understand Reserve Bank of India has also recently formed kind of a group which is also discussing on how do we make rupee more, internationalized. And I think there is also a need because the way economy is growing, probably rupee can play a very pivotal role, globally. More from IFSC perspective, I think there has been a couple of initiatives which has been taken to see that how rupee can become more of an international market. One, the masala bond listing has been permitted on the IFSC where these are rupee denominated bonds and can be issued basically from the IFSC zone. Second, non-deliverable forward involving rupee has also been permitted. So USD INR kind of NDF trading has also been permitted where, in the IFSC today where rupee is involved. And the third, I think there are discussions happening in terms of how do we enable more rupee denominated products. Third such product which has been enabled is the rupee ECB. So external commercial borrowing which is generally in a dollar terms, but today from Gift City, one can also provide rupee ECB where currency risk will remain with the lender, not the borrower basically. So I think there are some of these initiatives which have been taken to see that how, rupee can be internationalized basically.
So essentially, the strength of a currency also depends on a lot of geopolitics, right? We need a Bretton Woods Part 2, for the dollar to be changed. So that is something which has to keep in. But as far as the IFSC is concerned, one of the things why we have been set up is also to earn more foreign exchange, right? So that is probably where that is the question which you have posed might be a lot more relevant maybe for the domestic jurisdiction, what are the things they are trying to do to strengthen the rupee. And essentially, if you look at it, this is a little bit opposite to what we are trying to do. We are trying to earn more foreign exchange, as far as the country is concerned. Anyway, thanks for the question.
Thank you, sir.
So we should, I think there are people yes, sir.
Yeah, basically now, see, your more perspective from the other side, that is more coming from outsource. That means Indian perspective, you are looking for investment to India. But since India is attracting a lot of FDI, so for all those foreign subsidiary companies which are setting up their shops in India, like maybe a manufacturing facility or it can be a service industry, what are the offerings from your end from the GIFT City point of view? That is question number one. And second one, basically on a very specific question. See, for example, if I'm acting as a broker and we setting up a office or a shop in your place, is he allowed to do a kind of transaction that means as a broker only for outside shares, not for any NSE or BSE shares, but only for the other, maybe for New York Stock Exchange or London Stock Exchange or any other country for that matter. That is allowed actually. Hope my second question is clear.
What was the first question?
No, I was not able to.
What was the first question? Can you just mention?
No, basically my question is on the FDI part, see foreign subsidiary which are coming
From the holding company perspective.
Yeah, from holding company perspective.
Yeah.
Will it really make any sense that, okay, if I route it through your area and then come for an investment to India, I mean, I just
Sure.
wondered.
So whenever FDI money which is coming to India, it's coming from generally two ways. One, either investors have created structures either in Singapore, Mauritius or Hong Kong kind of jurisdictions, which is in the nature of VCC or alternative investment funds and all. And that money is coming in India under FDI route and getting invested into the private equity market. So that part has been enabled under the fund management entity regulations where similar structures can be created, raise money from the global investors, and that money can be invested under FDI route in mainland India. The second question is, can we allow, say, SPVs or holding companies to be created where the core purpose is to make investment in India? So probably I think that's more work in progress where a specialized vehicle can be created for acquisition or a FDI investment.
So there are two things I'll just to add to what Sandeep ji has said. We are working with the government. Recently the budget had announcement on VCCs. So that is something which we are anyway working on with the government. So hopefully that should see fruition very soon. And on the SPV piece, as far as funds are concerned, that is also a piece that we are working on. So once we are able to come out with something, we'll be putting out a consultation paper on that. Fine then, so I've been asked
I
to
had asked for a second question on the broker part of it actually.
What was the second question?
The brokers basically who can access the global market, if you want to highlight.
Global
that.
access.
Global access.
So, brokers who are registered in IFSC, they can definitely access the global market. So, as I had mentioned, we have INX GA, which is INX Global Access, so which gives you a kind of access to about 150 plus exchanges across 33 countries with 23 currencies. So definitely, the brokers established there can access the international markets through the global access route. So that's allowed for them. They can do that.
Yeah, I would also like to add that we have also enabled something called the RTP, remote trading platform for foreign brokers to access. So they need not specifically get registered with the regulator as brokers, but for the purpose of just dealing with the securities, they can take a license from the exchange. That is also allowed. The two-way thing is also allowed. Fine then, so
I'm CS B.K. Unhelkar. Sir, health of any nation indicator is insurance penetration and insurance density. And we know that globally we are far behind. And IRDA, our regulator, has also kept a vision that fully insured India by 2047. So there is a lot of potential. What role can IFSC and GIFT City can play in achieving that mission of this great nation? Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Pramod Shah. I'm former chairman of the Western Region and council member in the past. So I want to ask you two things. Why don't you open out the branches or local offices in different states, to make people aware of whatever the activities are being going on in the GIFT City and how the professional can involve more. That is one, because now you three people have come here and informed the company secretary at conference, but other people won't know, sir. That is one. Number two, sir, with the GIFT City coming up, do you think that the chances for Bombay City becoming financial center is reduced now or not?
No, okay, so two questions. So let me answer your question because I don't know much about insurance. So let me answer, and more so as far as the GIFT City IFSC is concerned, we are more into reinsurance than insurance. Okay, so now as far as this is concerned, we are doing a lot of outreach programs. And this is not just restricted to one part of the country. We are doing it locally and internationally also, whereby we are sort of, even in fact, last 2 weeks ago, I was in Hyderabad. So apart from going physically and meeting people, we are also doing a lot of web-based programs. We also understand that we cannot be, present everywhere physically. So we are partnering various institutes, including the ICSI, where we are sort of taking this whole thing to the masses and telling them to take advantage of the gift city. Now, as far as the branches are concerned, our act anyway allows us to have offices in India and abroad also. So when the time comes, because we are very fledgling, we are just technically, it's only 4 years since the act was passed. So as and when the need arises, certainly we will be able to, look at that. You also want to add something on that?
No, I think on the insurance side, what IFSC can play a role. I think there are life insurance companies which have set up their offices, and there are also general insurance companies. Now, many times NRIs working overseas, their dependents are in India. So what the IFSC will offer, where the insurance premium can be paid by NRI in dollar terms using the IFSC product, and they can actually insure the dependents in India. And I think that will open up a larger market where the premium payer generally, who is overseas, may not have access to a rupee denominated products, will now start getting access to the dollar denominated products through Gift City. So in that small sense, Gift City will be able to play a role to make the insurance more democratic, and probably IRD is playing a very important role to ensure that the penetration becomes very fast.
One question from this side. Hello. Like the 10 years of income tax holidays, as you mentioned, under the umbrella of IFCA, is it those who are connected or taking services, product of the, only they are enjoying, or it is applicable to those who are outside of the IFCA?
No, you have to establish a place of business in the IFSC to
Gift City. So it is directly connected with Gift City and IFCA,
yeah,
right?
yeah, obviously.
And one more request, as it is we are on the national platform. Like being a company secretary, they are having a huge responsibilities and accountability. So a minimum standard is set. Those who are in for those who are in the employment, for their pay scale, and for those who are in the as a PCS, minimum at least there should be for the compliances and all, for each and every category. That should be, if it is set, then this, what we say, the dignity what we are having, that could be maintained, and they should not be diverted from their main goal, finding the way, another source of income. They should go on the right way.
Yeah, your point is well taken, ma'am. So I think we can conclude.
Thank you everyone for wonderful and constructive deliberations. We request our session coordinators to kindly facilitate the release of a publication, setting up of units in IFSC, a comprehensive handbook at the hands of our learned guests.
The establishment of International Financial Services Center, that is IFSC, symbolizes the dreams and aspirations of a new and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Alongside enabling global businesses to set up offices in India, IFSC is providing numerous opportunities to professionals in areas ranging from finance and technology to legal and compliances. This publication provides a brief overview of the IFSC, guidelines for establishing business units in the IFSC, and the opportunities available for company secretaries in various areas.
Thank you everyone. I now request CS Rajesh Tarpara to kindly propose a vote of thanks.
Good morning, friends. IFSC Gift City. Gift City is a gift to nation, gift to Gujarat, and give to professional like a company secretary. Because I have observed that many times we are visiting the gift city and the peoples and regulators sitting over here and also meeting them, they are always asking, please provide us a compliance officer, please provide us a compliance officer. And around, around 150 or more than that company secretaries are already there employed in the gift city itself. And there is daily so much requirements are there in the company field of the compliance services. Speakers already said that there are ample opportunity for the financial sectors like gift city in a compliance, global compliance services, and export of the compliance service is a very great opportunity for a company secretary. There are services like ADR, direct listing, aircraft leasing, maritime boards, and many universities are already there. There are certain hurdles, yes, we can say that is a challenges to the gift city, that is competition of the gift city with other gift cities, other cities in financial sector like London, New York, Dubai, Singapore. It is an inspiration also for gift city that they can get something from them also, and it is a challenges. But yes, being in present government is more focused on the gift city, it is a signing and it will be a very successful in a near future. And how the government is taking step and how the ICSI is also inclining and joining hand with the gift city regulators. We have already set up a chapter over there in the GIFT, that is 73rd chapter in the GIFT city itself for ICSI, full-fledged managing committees, and we are facing some few challenges with the premises acquisition, and we will sit together and sort out this. Friends, I again appeal that this is very great, it was very great session, very insightful session. I'm thankful to all the panelists over here. I'm also thankful to Dwarkanath, co-coordinator of the session. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite CS Snehal Shah, Regional Council Member of WIRC of ICSI, onto the dais to kindly come and present a memento to the chair of the session, CS Pradeep Ramakrishnan, as a token of gratitude from the ICSI.
Next, I request CS Bhavesh Rawal, Treasurer WIRC of ICSI, to please come on the dais and present a memento to Shri Vijay Krishnamurthy.
And finally, I request CS Devaki Vasudev Rao from Hyderabad to kindly come on to the dais and present a memento to Shri Sandeep Shah.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a huge round of applause for